All right, peace to the planet Earth. You know what it is, a decent Banjoko. This is the Bishop Chronicles. And you know my life, man. Anybody, you know anything about me? A little bit? Okay. Hip hop and chess, man. That's like, you know what I'm saying? One of the many things I am known for. There are many scrolls to be written about my adventures throughout the earth. But hip hop and chess is at the forefront, right? Because, you know, there's Hip Hop Chess Federation. There's a lot of the jiu-jitsu chess, whatever stuff I've been on. Okay. But what you don't know is that when people see what I say, when people see what I talk about, they don't realize all the research I have to do to figure this stuff out and all the stuff that I have to, you know, try to understand and piece together. And so you don't understand who my predecessors are, right? And I try to do a good job of letting you know who influences me. I think it's important as a human being, when someone influences how you think, act, speak, live, it's important to acknowledge the people who came before you. And so in this regard, I had to have somebody who is trailblazer. That's an understatement. If I say he's a trailblazer, that's an understatement. I'm talking about Dr. Daaim Shabazz of the chess drum. So many years, so many miles traveled. Thank you for coming on to Bishop Chronicles. Dr. Daaim Shabazz, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. You know, just out here trying to spread California love all the way down to Tallahassee. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, it's crazy times in the world. You know what I mean? But for some reason, I'm oddly excited. I don't know why.
Well, I know you're looking at my background and you think I'm hanging out on the beach, but
that's chilling, bro. I need to be with you. We're at his estate. He's broadcasting live from his estate. You know what I'm saying?
But, you know, I'm not even going to front. That's just a virtual background. And, you know, they have, we have a lot of beaches down here in Florida, but certainly they're kind of off limits now. Because as you know, everybody else know in your audience, it's crazy down here in Florida. Nuts. We got the 15,000 cases of coronavirus. So this is about as close as I'll get to the beach.
Right. No, it makes sense, man. It's time to stay tough. You know what I'm saying? That's all there is to it. You know, now I came across you trying to do research on hip hop and chess. I mean, back in like 2003 or 4, like before I started hip hop chess, just doing research, I came across the chess drum. For those that don't know what the chess drum is, can you tell them what it is? And can you tell them, you know, that this isn't even what you do? Tell them what you do, professor, and then tell them about the chess drum.
Well, first I wanted to just thank you for inviting me on to the Bishop Chronicles. I have known you since at least 2005, 2006. I think you kind of, the HHCF, I think you spun that off. What was it, 2006? 2005, 2006?
Yeah. It was late. I think I reached out to you in late. Oh, you know what? That's not true. I think I bumped into you around 2003 because I had my first book, the West Side Rebellion book, right, that had RZA and Jizz and stuff in it. And I know you're mentioned in that book for sure. But then it was the Bobby Bruce and the Bronx that came later. But in between that time, I started HHCF.
Yeah, so I came out to your event in, I think that was 2007. Yeah, the King's Invitational.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was 6 years into the chess drum. And it's really a long story of how the chess drum evolved over time. But it really started because a question was asked of me by a white master after a tournament. We were talking about chess, and he was asking me this question. And this question really sparked this idea that I had. And the question was simple. Where are the black GMs? Where are the black IMs? For those of you who may not know, that's black grandmasters and international masters. Those are the two top levels of chess.
Right.
So he was asking me, where are the black players at? Where are the high level black players? Now, we knew of the national masters locally here in the U.S., but I only had a handful of names. Emory Tate was one, which you know Emory Tate, and we'll talk about him later. But that question was burning in my mind for a long time. And then I started reaching out to people, started asking questions. I started this kind of research as to how to build a Black chess network.
Mm-hmm.
So this was late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Now I left Chicago, which is where I'm from.
Shout out to the Chi.
Shout out. Yep. Yeah, definitely a great city.
Yeah.
But I left there. I went to Atlanta for grad school.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of my classes, we had to do a marketing plan. And I'm thinking, this stuff was still in my head. So I'm thinking, I'm going to do a marketing plan on a Black chess network.
Nice.
Which is what I did. So I did that. You know, I got a good grade on it too. So
all right.
That was a good thing. And so I started sharing it with different people. And one of the persons I shared it with was Maurice Ashley, which many people know that he is a grandmaster, the first African-American grandmaster that we have. And, you know, he was like, yeah, good idea. And I showed it to some other people. But at that time I was in graduate school. I didn't have time to do anything with this network because it was supposed to be a magazine at first.
Okay.
I was going to do a quarterly magazine.
Paper was still a thing, kids. Paper was still a thing.
It was still a thing. And I was going to do a quarterly magazine, and I was going to ship it all around the world. And this was going to highlight the accomplishments of Black chess players.
That is fantastic.
But then if you fast forward about a good 10 years, because at that time I was doing my master's, then I did the doctorate. So
and what school were you at? What school were you at? And what was your doctorate in?
I was at Clark Atlanta. So my doctorate was International Affairs and Development.
Okay.
So that took me 6.5 years. And so I graduated in 98. I come down to Florida, got a position at Florida A&M University, which is where I teach now.
And what do you teach?
I teach global business. So I have my master's in business and I have my doctorate in international affairs. So I teach international business.
Right.
And so still the marketing plan was in my file cabinet. Just, you know, it was
sitting
there. It was just sitting there. So then a couple of things happened. There was an article in Chess Life on Black masters written by Gregory Kearse. And I'm like, this is an interesting article. And it was chronicling some of the highlights, highlighting some of the accomplishments of Black players. And, you know, that was inspiration. But then the real thing that happened, now that article came out in Chess Life in 98. Next year, Maurice Ashley was on the cover of Chess Life. I think that might have been the May issue, 1999 of Chess Life. When I reached in my mailbox and I pulled out that magazine and I saw his face, I said, this is it.
It's the time.
This is the time to take that marketing plan out of my file cabinet
and make
it real. We have to move on it. So then it took another maybe year and some change for me to create a website. So February 12th, 2001 at midnight, I hit that button and then the site was live, and then that's when the Chess Drum was launched.
So you've been around for 20 years doing this, man.
Yeah, it'd be February
20 years, man.
20 years.
That is unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, for people that haven't been to the Chess Drum, please go there and hang out. There's a lot of wisdom on there. And it's not at all like a pro-Black site where this is happening and that. No, listen. It's about actual history of Black chess players, not just in North America, but around the world, right? Like you've traveled to a lot of countries to investigate like what the chess culture is in, say, like Cuba and other places of the world. Can you talk about chess, like as you've traveled, and tell me about some of your favorite memories?
Chess is, it's a fascinating world. We like to think about chess in kind of parochial ways, think that it's about people with certain IQs, that you have to have a PhD in physics to know how to play chess. I mean, all these are just misnomers. I mean, you can literally learn chess in an hour's time. Learn all the rules and just begin playing. And it's not hard to learn chess. But now if you want to get good at it, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. That's like jiu-jitsu. You can learn jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I'm gonna be good at jiu-jitsu. It's gonna be taking a
Right.
minute. You know what I'm saying?
You got to put in some time. You got to put in some work because it's like anything else.
Yeah.
Now, when you go around the world, the deep thing is that I cover also top level events. So I've
Right.
covered a world championship. I've covered Olympiad tournaments. I've covered Grand Chess Tour events. And these are the top guys. These are guys
The
are
best of the best.
these are the best of the best. But then when you go to some of these small countries, I mean, I've been to Cuba, I've been to the Bahamas and Jamaica, and I've been to Ghana, and I've visited the chess community there. I've been to Bahrain.
Right. You've been to Abu Dhabi? Have you been to Abu Dhabi?
I have not been there. I've been to Qatar, though, which is also in the Gulf.
Right. It's beautiful over there, isn't it? Is Qatar beautiful? Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. In fact, my former colleague who lives there, he says you wouldn't recognize the place now since the last time you were here.
What? Because they flipped it like that?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They got nothing but money, bro. They making it rain over there.
Yeah, they making it rain. So that was interesting. And it's also interesting that when you go to these places, like I was received in Kenya. I happened to be in Kenya on a faculty trip. And so the Kenya guys came to my hotel. And, you know, they picked me up and they took me to their spot.
Wow.
Now, what was their spot? Their spot was just an office space of a long table and some file cabinets over here. It was really nothing.
Just a spot. It was just a spot.
But it was, you can get a sense of the passion,
right.
The same passion that you would get here in the States or in Europe that you got in that small office space in Kenya. Or in the coffee shop in Ghana that I went to, or some space in the Bahamas. We played, when I went to the Bahamas, we played in kind of a gymnasium. It was some kind of gym. They had tables set up, but it was beautiful.
Right.
Because the passion was there. And one of the things about the chess drum that I enjoy doing is bringing light to stories, because I'm not, I would some would call me a historian. I do some history segments and I do chronicle history. I typically will do current events. I would do news stories. But some of these stories are absolutely fascinating. You'll take a story like Fiona Matese, who was chronicled in the book Queen of Katwe. Now, Katwe is this very small place in Uganda. It's one of the poorest towns in Uganda, and Uganda is one of the poorest countries in Africa.
Right.
Africa is one of the
pretty
poorest
poor.
countries.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty poor. So you're talking about a place that if you look at a place like that, you would say, wow, how are people making it here? But in that place, Fiona actually stumbled onto chess because she was following her brother to this club meeting, this chess club meeting, and she kind of peeked in. And so Robert Katende saw her peeking in and he said, hey, girl, come here. Come here. What's your name? And he got somebody to teach her how to play. And that opened up a world for her that
her journey has been amazing, as covered by Disney, right?
Yeah. And so she had a movie that was done by Disney. Right. And now she's a college student at Northwest, I think it's Northwest University in Seattle, out in that area. And she may be finishing up, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Because she was in St. Louis at one of those colleges for a little bit, I think, on one of the chess teams out there, I think.
Yeah, well, she actually traveled around the U.S. doing a tour, a speaking tour.
I remember.
After the book, but before the movie. But then after the movie, she came back and got a chance to step on the red carpet too. Right. You know, because I think it was nominated for some kind of documentary. So they actually got a chance to step out on the red carpet. So that story was amazing. And I probably did about 24 articles just on her story. Yeah. And that's powerful. Now the irony is you got in chess, you got people that are a little elitist. Right. So when they read a story like that, they may miss the point and say, well, what is her level of play? Right. You know, they'll focus on her level of play and miss the story. Right. And there are hundreds of stories like this that are so inspirational. And those are the stories that I like to bring to the audience because it shows a different element of chess. It's not just the gaming. It's not just the sport. that,
Right.
okay, I go to the World Open and I win
I won.
$20,000.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. But then you want stories also that inspire. And there are lots of stories that I have covered that are inspirational. There's a recent story I did of a local guy here who has cerebral palsy. Now, I met him through the chess club. We used to meet at Borders every Wednesday night. And this is a brother, cerebral palsy, you have limited mobility, and his limbs are, distorted, but he can play chess. And so I would go to the club meetings, and he was there rain or shine. He was always there in his wheelchair. The Meta car would come and get him, and then they would take him home.
Take him back, yeah.
So recently I was saying, I wonder what happened to Walter. So I kind of did a Google on him, and I found out that, he was still around. He was just struggling a little bit. And they had been raising funds for him.
Okay.
And that was years ago. But now, that was maybe about 2-3 years ago. But recently, I found another reference to him, and they're doing another fundraiser, and he's trying to actually get a house. So to me, that's inspiring, because here's a man with cerebral palsy. And when you listen to him, I mean, the way he speaks is kind of hard to understand.
Right.
Because of his disability.
Right.
But he's very he was very dedicated to chess, and you can tell
resilient.
His eyes light up. His eyes light up when he's playing, and you can just see the energy that he has. So it's those type of stories that I like to tell. Now, in terms of the most memorable place, you mentioned it. It was actually Cuba. Cuba is a place that it's like no other place.
That's what I was interviewing a rapper named Mr. FAB, and he loved Cuba. He said it was just fantastic, man. I've never heard a bad story of anybody going to Cuba. Everybody who goes to Cuba says it's amazing. It's beautiful. The food's amazing. The people are great. Tell me about it.
Yeah, now I went with my university, so it wasn't like I went illegally and anything. We have a license, and so as a university, we were able to go over there on that license. And I heard all kinds of stories, and I'd read history of the Cuban Revolution and how that came about, and I was always intrigued, and I was looking forward to going to Cuba. Obviously, it's in the Caribbean, so you knew the weather was going to be nice. But then one of the first things that you notice when you go to Cuba, and anybody out there who's been to Cuba, you can back me up on this, is you'll notice the old cars.
They do have a lot of old cars. They look great.
Oh, they're beautiful. Some of them look like they just rode off of the GM.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
Line.
They're really well done.
Oh, they're amazing. And you'll also notice the Spanish architecture. Now, bear in mind, when you go to Cuba, you can say, okay, that building needs some paint. It needs tuck pointing. They need a bit more mortar. They need to fix the streets. Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the infrastructure there, but the people are absolutely wonderful. There's this embargo between the U.S. and Cuba, but they love Americans.
Right.
It's ironic because they'll say, "Oh, yeah, we love Americans, but politics bad." Politics, yeah. Politics. They want to stay away from that.
Right.
But it's I went to the chess club there, the Capablanca Chess Club. There in Havana, and they happen to be having a chess tournament in the memory of Rogelio Ortega, who was an Afro-Cuban former national champion.
Wow.
And I had written about him. I had written stories about Rogelio, and here I am in Cuba on the weekend that they're honoring him. And
that's unbelievable.
Wow, how cool is that? And so I go in the club, and they're playing this tournament, and I'm looking around, and they actually had a chess set of, I guess that was owned by Capablanca himself.
Oh, wow.
And then they had some other mementos from Jose Raul Capablanca, who was the world champion.
I'm such a fan.
Yeah. It's the culture in Cuba for chess is amazing. You will see chess just about everywhere you go there.
Wow.
So this club they had some offhand games going on in the back, and I came there some other days and I played some games. This random guy comes up and wants to play, and I'm playing him, and I play at a pretty good level.
Right.
And I'm thinking, man, this guy is strong.
Right.
We were playing game after game. And then another time I played another guy, and I couldn't beat that guy. I said, this guy is really strong.
Right.
So you have these random guys coming up
who are just good.
They are good. And I was like, man, and okay, I know the culture of Cuba.
Right.
But that showed me that the fabric, the fabric of the community, chess was so much embedded as a part of that history. And I knew why, okay, Cuba's a top 10 chess nation. And you get to see why. So there's a photo that I have on my Facebook, my Chess Drum Facebook page, of me playing on the streets of Havana. I was playing a blitz game, just walking through the city. I had a guy that was taking me. He was showing me around, and we came across some guys who were playing blitz. And so I sat down and I played a couple of games. And that picture is, I actually have it framed here.
I know which picture you're talking about.
In fact, this is, I have the virtual background.
Yeah, the back. Yeah, but there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it that was my favorite. It's one of my favorite pictures. But the other thing is that you'll see people playing chess randomly on the street in their backyards, and we ran across a lot of people just playing random games. But it's also embedded in the artwork.
Right.
So you go and you'll see these sculptures of chess pieces. You go to the Habana Libre, which was the big hotel back then, which is where the Olympiad was played in 1966. And so they have plaques there in memory of the Olympiad that was held. And you could see Bobby Fischer and a lot of the other players there. So that was absolutely an amazing trip. I was able to meet a young man named Vladimir, who I still keep in contact with today. And that was just a fascinating experience. So that was probably one of the most memorable times that I had as far as going to a chess community and actually experiencing all that it had to offer. And I was grateful for the opportunity to actually see that.
Man, that is really amazing. And I have always championed, one of the main reasons why I champion chess is because, Socrates said, I am not Greek nor am I Athenian, but I'm a citizen of the world. And it's always really resonated with me, not just because I feel that way naturally, but because of, if you think about the time that he lived in, right? Like when people were so siloed, right? Like we are just Greek, or we are just Roman, or we are just Egyptian. For him to have that kind of idea is really beautiful. And so before my children were born, I started thinking like, what is going to make my children citizens of the world, right? And so I thought of games, right? I thought of chess. Initially, this was years ago because my son's 22 now. but I thought of chess, I thought of soccer, and I thought of judo. Those were my first three things. That was before HHCF, right? That was before HHCF. And then obviously over time, it became hip hop, chess, and jujitsu. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, like, I love that global exchange, that intercultural, interracial, interfaith exchange that chess gives us, Now, beyond that, I wanted to talk to you about your book about Emory Tate. Emory Tate is someone who, to me, is probably, arguably, the single most unsung Black hero of chess for me. What he did in his lifespan, just as a man, let alone as a chess player, is really amazing. And you wrote a book about his life. He was a supporter of HHCF. He came to an event with RZA. He played RZA at one of our events. And you wrote a book about his life. And I think that so many people need to purchase this book, not just because it's you, not just because it's a Black author writing about a Black intellectual chess player, but because it's an undersung history, and this is such a well done book. Can you talk about Emory Tate and what prompted you to make this book, because it's important?
Well, first of all, I wanted to just say something about the HHCF. I believe what you have done has been, I don't even have a word for it, but it's been monumental, you know, to fuse those three art forms. And they happen to be art forms that I have varying levels of passion, you know, being a lover of hip hop, specifically coming up, you know, when hip hop was coming up around the 80s. I actually remember the late 70s when hip hop just broke out. You know, Sugar Hill Gang, and
right,
you know, Curtis Blow, Run DMC, all the Grandmaster Flash.
Right.
I mean, that was really a critical moment in Black consciousness. So to throw chess, hip hop, and martial arts, which I also have a particular passion.
Right.
I practice different arts, most notably capoeira, which I trained for some years.
Yeah.
And also Emory was a martial arts enthusiast as well.
His sons are kickboxers, champions.
They were champion kickboxers. So to put these three arts together, I think you were onto something.
Thank you.
Now, there had been people who talked about this, and you know, as you know,
right,
in many hip hop songs, you have this whole chess hip hop
connectivity.
Connectivity is there, and it makes perfect sense. And what you've been able to do with that has been absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
And with Emory participating in your event, I thought having his impressions about how this connects was really something that you were able to add. I mean,
dude, it was fantastic. That was one of my favorite memories of HHCF, period, you know?
Because you had RZA was there.
Yeah, Rugged Monk was there.
They were all there. And they were dropping pearls of wisdoms to each other.
The
panels?
Wasn't
like it was one-sided. It was like everybody was flowing.
Yeah. And you know, I have to say, the main thing I think that's different about HHCF that helps people understand it are the panels. And I always knew that, right? I always knew if I could get, you know, Josh Waitskin to sit next to RZA, who would sit next to DJ Qbert, you would hear something you ain't never heard before, right? And so those panels are everything. In that particular event, I still got the some of the video. I think YouTube took them down because we had music, you know what I mean? That was like copywritten or whatever. But like the stuff that Emory Tate was saying that day was mind-blowing. His support of the event that day and after was really beautiful. He brought amazing chess players with him. Him and RZA vibed out. Him and Monk vibed out. Him and my kids vibed out. It was really fantastic, you know? And so when he passed away, I was really shaken because, you know, he passed away here in the Bay. He passed away playing chess.
Yep.
I mean, he literally had a heart attack in the middle of a chess game.
Yep.
You know, here in the Bay. And like, I was just blown away. And so I was so happy that you made this book because I was shocked at how few Black news outlets even covered his passing. And it hurt me. It hurt me a lot because it made me fearful. It made me fearful that too many of our intellectual giants will pass away unnoticed and unacknowledged. And so your book meant a lot to me because that was the kind of acknowledgement that I felt he always deserved, you know? And so talk about what you cover in your book, because you have some of his games in there, which I think is important, right? Because that really illustrates his genius. But talk about his book and his life, man.
So this is the book. It's called Triple Exclam: The Life and Games of Emory Tate, Chess Warrior. Now I have to tell you something about the title. Triple Exclam. There's really no definition to triple exclam, but in chess, double exclam means brilliant move.
Right. If you see 2 exclamation points written down during someone's game, that means that was genius. That was strong.
Genius.
That was unbelievable. Right.
Single exclam means good move.
Right.
Double exclam means brilliant move. But Emery used to always say triple exclam because he thought, I mean,
big. Who saw this coming?
Right. This is universal knowledge that we're talking about. And he was such a character that I describe him in the book as being an actor on a stage. Mm-hmm. So he would say, hey, let me show you this game. So it would be him and a chessboard, and he would go through this game by memory. Mm-hmm. But then it's almost like he's on a stage by himself, and he's acting out the chess game.
Isn't it crazy? It's charisma crazy that he had, the way that he could do that. Nobody could tell a chess game story
like him.
Nobody.
And I haven't seen it since. I haven't seen anybody able to convey that kind of charisma
and energy and calculation. It was all this crystallization of many beautiful things, man.
His ideas were very unique. But the other thing was that he was a lover of languages, and he spoke about 8 languages.
Russian among them.
Russian is his third language, actually, because he spoke Spanish. He went he did a study abroad when he was in high school in Mexico. And then when he was in the military, he went to language training to study Russian. Mm-hmm. And so he was actually working for the Air Force as a Russian interpreter. And there are a lot of funny stories about Emery with Russian, because obviously there are not a lot of blacks who speak Russian.
Right.
So sometimes he'll break out the Russian, and then Russian people will turn their heads looking at him in shock.
Yeah.
Wow, how is he able to speak Russian? You know, it's amazing. Yeah. I have a funny story about that in the book. But this is what happened. Emery was playing in a chess tournament, and he basically gave his life to chess. He served in the Air Force for 12 years, and he got an honorable discharge, but he wasn't pleased with some things in the Air Force. This guy was absolutely brilliant, but sometimes he would say things that were unbelievable. And it's my belief that a lot of people could not understand Emery because he was on this level.
He was like up there. He was like
on another level.
Yeah. Almost like mad scientist level, just before mad scientist. Because you could follow him. He would go where you couldn't go, but you could follow him. He wasn't just like out there, you know, but yes, I agree.
So he got his honorable discharge from the Air Force, and he went back to Elkhart, Indiana, where his mother was. And he had a family that he had started, and he wanted to continue chess. And so he started teaching and also playing. And his legend started to grow because the way he played chess was hyper aggressive. But it wasn't that he wasn't playing chess for himself, although people might say, oh, he's egotistical and all these other things. He was playing chess for the art. He was a chess artist, which is consistent with the description I just gave you of being as an actor on a stage.
Right.
He was an exponent of chess as an art form, and he wanted to show the beauty of it.
Right.
So that's why he would get people and say, hey, let me show you this game. And then he would just go and show you the beauty. And it was like this flower opening up. And every time he would make a description, that it would become more and more beautiful. And you would be able to see the beauty of his mind.
He pulled you into that moment. It was like time travel, bro. He could pull you into that moment. You would feel like you were really there.
You were really there on the battlefield. And not only that he would start speaking Russian. He would start speaking German. He would sing songs. He would do a rhyme, some kind of hip hop rhyme.
Yeah, he loved hip hop, man.
Yeah,
he loved hip hop.
Throw all that into an analysis, and so he was a treasure. He was a storyteller, par excellence. And he, I was able to. Now I met him when he was 21. He hadn't reached that level.
Right.
Later on, I was able to have my moments with him, one-on-one moments, and at that time, we were playing at the Chicago Open. This might have been somewhere in the early 2000s, and he had been struggling with some issues, with some alcohol issues.
Okay.
And sometimes people will come up to me and they would say, yeah, I saw Emery and he didn't look so well, or they would describe that, and so he would was going through some things. And so one time I saw him and he looked like a new person. His face was clear, and Emery was a good-looking guy.
Yeah, he was a suave dude.
Handsome guy.
Yeah, he was big, he was strong. Yeah,
he was very powerful. And when I first saw him, and he was at that time, I think he was about 21. You notice his forearms. He had on this tank top when I first saw him, this big afro.
Right,
and he had these forearms that looked like Popeye.
He did have forearms like Popeye. He did. He did.
And I'm like, this guy's powerful.
Yeah.
But then, I saw him that tournament, and he looked very, very well. And I said, you're looking good. He says, oh, thank you. He said, thank you. Because I think he had some health issues that the doctor had kind of pulled his coat and say,
hey man, you got to tighten up.
You got to tighten up. You got to stop the drinking. And so then, at the Chicago Open, I was, I think, leaving, and then he says, where are you going? I said, I'm just, making a run. He says, you got a car? I need a ride. So I took him. He wanted to go to the store. So we get in the car and we go down this main street. Obviously everything is closed because it's a Memorial Day.
Right.
And so we're looking for a store. And I'm like, I don't know what's open. He says, oh, go down the street. So we go down the street. He goes into this store and he comes out. He gets in the car and he has this brown bag of beer. And I just kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, man. I'm like, you're not back on that thing again. I'm thinking,
right.
He's drinking beer. Okay, beer is not the hard stuff, but
right. It's not like it's like Jack Daniels or whatever.
But you know how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You drink beer, then you want something else.
Yeah, harder, and next thing you know, you're deep in.
So
you're drinking Everclear like 3 days later, right?
And let me tell you this: Emery can drink with the Russians. If you know anything,
I don't even want to imagine that.
Yeah, he can drink with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking about vodka. We're talking about the hard stuff. And but just to go into that story a little more, when we were in the car, he was telling me about his family. He was telling me about his father, who had practiced law for decades. He has 2 sisters who are lawyers. He has another sister who's a professor at Brown University.
So he just comes from a family of geniuses.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, high pedigree. He has another sister, a half sister, who has McDonald's franchises in Kentucky. Wow. Now imagine this: Emery helped run some of her McDonald's. Can you imagine Emery managing at McDonald's?
That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
He was managing his sister's McDonald's in Kentucky, but it just so happened that Emery. What I heard is that Emery was bossing the boss, trying to pretend like he was the boss when you had another manager there that was managing the store. And
so that wasn't gonna work.
That was short-lived. So he went back to chess. But it just so happened that Emery had this up and down situation with alcohol, and he just couldn't shake it. And then in his last days, he just couldn't. His body just couldn't take it.
Yeah, and no, so it's tough, man.
He had some episodes in his last days of depression, being depressed, and just wondering, what kind of person am I? What kind of legacy am I going to leave? His half brother told me that was weighing heavily on his mind before he died, is what kind of legacy that he could leave for his children. And I said to myself, well, if I have anything to do with it, that his legacy will be safe.
Yeah.
So in 2015, he was playing in a tournament, and in the middle of a game, as you said, but he wasn't feeling so well. And months prior to that, he had an episode where he ended up in the hospital for about a week. He had, coming back from Europe, he had been playing in some tournaments, and I don't really know all of the details of what happened, but he had an episode on the plane, and it turns out that he had some his arteries were blocked. He had heart disease.
Okay.
He had heart disease, which was exacerbated by some of his other things that he was dealing with.
Yeah.
And so he ended up in a hospital being treated for that heart condition and also for his asthma, because he had that condition as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes back, he starts playing in tournaments again, feels a lot better. And then, but this day in this tournament, he didn't feel well, went to the bathroom, and I guess to put water on his
get himself
face.
straight, right?
Yeah, get himself straight. And then he comes back out of the bathroom and he says, someone call 911. And then he just collapsed. He collapsed, and the whole tournament was just looking around, what is going on? And he's there laying down, and then everybody's around him. And then I think someone tried to CPR until the paramedics came.
Right.
And then they took him to the hospital, which was only about less than 10 minutes away.
Yeah, because it was in Fremont, I think.
Yeah.
And, I used to live in Fremont, so yeah.
And so he hung on until later that evening. They say that he didn't make it. They contacted his sister who lives in the area. And Maurice Ashley, I talked to him the next morning because I didn't know at that time.
Right.
But Maurice says, well, Emory passed away. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I said, you got to be kidding. So I got on the internet and I just started frantically. Now, obviously, there wasn't a lot of information, but then I had someone contact me, Mike Klein of chess.com. He was asking me information about Emory. So I'm thinking everybody's in a frenzy trying to
figure out what's going on.
Announcements about him.
Right.
And so I made an announcement that he had passed away. I had confirmed it. And, I was very sad. When I was writing this, it was just like
I can't even imagine.
I was in a daze. And so years ago, I told Emory that he needed to write a book on himself.
Mm-hmm.
He needed to just put 20 of his games in there and I'll help him
just
put
drop
it together.
Right.
And he's like, he says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put myself out there like that. But then later he says, I've been thinking about what you told me about the book, and that's something I might
be down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said that, but then we never really got to the point. So when he passed away, I started almost immediately putting together information for a book. I started in December of 2015, and the book came out in 2017 in March. And again, it's XXX Glam. And when I first released the book, I think in the first 6 months, I sold about 450 copies in 6 months. So for chess books, that's
huge,
really
dude.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Huge. Yeah, for a chess book.
Yeah.
It's really a blessing that you made that book, and it really speaks to like a greater discussion I need to have with you right now, and that is, I have seen, I believe in the Wall Street Journal and a few other publications, this whole new thing about, since the quarantine, chess is mainstream, and, people are talking about how chess.com has gone up and and like, there's all these things, and they're like, chess is back. It's so cool, blah, blah. And I'm looking, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed, Dr. Shabazz, because no one's talking about the role that Wu Tang has played in chess as a global thing, especially in communities of color. No one's talking about HHCF. No one's talking about the chess drum and what a diligent role they have played in keeping urban chess alive and well and understanding it culturally on a global perspective, right? And this isn't about my ego. This is about how do you ignore an obvious chunk of the story. You can't have a conversation about chess in America in the last 20 years and not talk about what hip hop chess has been doing. You can't have this conversation and not look at Maurice Ashley and all of the tournaments that he's been, commentating, you know what I mean? And the charisma that he brings to the discussion, right? He brings a lot of positive energy. When he's doing a game, you might as well be watching a boxing match. You might as well be watching a UFC. The way that he announces, you know, how people are moving, what that move means, especially for people that don't understand the complexity of the positions and things like that. Like what he does is a huge deal. And so I feel like, yet again, even in a modern era, African Americans, Latinos, just all minorities seem to get like pushed aside in this modern discussion of chess, and how you think you can have that without 36 chambers, how you think you can have that without 8 diagrams, without, you know what I'm saying, all these albums, man, and all this music, all the stuff that the GZA did, whether it's the Grand Masters album that he did with DJ Muggs, or Liquid Swords, which he did with RZA, the cover art, all of this stuff, none of it is getting mentioned. And so now I'm seeing, getting to my point, I'm seeing, you know, US Chess Federation is like, you know, oh, you know, Black Lives Matter to us too. And everybody's trying to act like they have a vested interest in discussing and showcasing Black achievements and influence in chess, and I am just not seeing anything happening. And I'm really disappointed. And I'm not disappointed from a place of ego. I'm disappointed because I know a lot of the people who are doing nothing know better.
Mm-hmm.
They know better. They know who's making the moves. They know who's been making the moves. For someone to come to you and be like, yo, chess is a really big deal. Would you like to be interviewed on that? Yeah, sure. And you ain't going to mention all of the, you know, all of the things that have been happening in the hood around chess. Take HHCF out. Take the chess drum out. There's a lot happening in New York. There's a lot happening in LA. There's a lot happening in DC. And so I don't understand how, in the aftermath of everything that's come after George Floyd and BLM and Brown Lives Matter and unity and diversity, we trying to figure it out. But that exclusion inside the chess world, or negation, it's almost like an apathy, is still very prominent, in my opinion. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's multi-layered. When you talk about the chess world, it's definitely multi-layered, because you have the tournament chess,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the chess as kind of a cultural activity,
Mm-hmm.
something that people have an impression of. They may not know how to play,
Right.
but they have a particular impression about chess being something positive.
Right.
Then you have chess that is infused in just about everything. It's infused. You see it all the time in commercials. People always talk about the chess game, even when they're referring to football or sports.
Yeah, all the time in the UFC now.
Yeah, the two coaches are playing a chess game.
Yeah.
Or they'll say it in terms of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Or anything that has to do with strategy or some type of tactics, they will use chess as the metaphor. So you have the kind of public persona of chess, then you have the competitive sporting aspect of chess. And those two are very separate. What I mentioned earlier about the Queen of Ketwe, which is kind of a literature piece, basically giving you chess and the benefits of chess and how it was able to help her pull herself out of poverty. Then you got the sports side of chess.
Yeah.
So the people who are on the sports side of chess would look at a story like that and they would say, oh, how many tournaments has she won? What's her rating?
Right. I got a lot of that when HHCF first started, because they were like, well, how strong is RZA? Well, how strong is GZA? Well, who cares, blood? Can you rap? Shut up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, this is a dude who's an artist who's stepping in to something that he loves. And while you're going to try and judge him on his rating, right? You won't step up and do what he's doing. So he's willing to step into your world to have that cultural exchange, but you're going to be sitting in some kind of fake ivory tower, right? Judging his chess, but not observing or acknowledging the impact of his music and his lyrics, which I just think is disgusting.
And not only that, what you said earlier about the chess-oriented music that a lot of rap groups have put out, that gives a lot of exposure to specifically people who may not have normally had an interest in chess.
Like
they'll look at that. They'll look at the 36. They'll look at that video, the 36 chambers, and it's like, whoa! I didn't know that it was that deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a classic. I like that video myself. That was an excellent video. But I think you have a lot of things that are going on now. You have people reacting to George Floyd.
Right.
But for us, this has been going on for 400 years. I mean,
we've been here, homie.
We've been experiencing this for centuries.
Been here.
So it's like this thing where something happens. And I think the thing was when they saw George Floyd being choked out, you know, with a knee to the neck.
Yeah.
That was up front and it was raw. And people were looking at this. And I guess for the first time, they were able to see something in the expression of the police officer who had his hands in his pocket.
Yeah. The heartlessness and the casualness. He was so casual killing a black man.
He was just so casual. And it was like, it's just another day's work.
Yeah.
And I think that struck something into a lot of people, specifically us who, I mean, we've been through this many, many times where we've had police officers involved in some type of abuse or death. And we can tick off all the names. They even have a hashtag, you know, say their name.
Yeah.
You know,
and there's more names than we can say.
Right. And so we've been dealing with this for a long time. But I think now, since people see the blatant disregard for Black lives, they feel obligated that, okay, now we have to make a statement. There is no more excuses.
Right, to say are you still unaware, bro? You ain't knowing?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. You know, it's like, you know, and I'm on Facebook sometimes and people are making these comments, oh, well, I thought this was over in 2020. It's like, what? We never fixed it.
Yeah.
But you think that it solved itself?
And you know what's hilarious? Everyone who says that, none of them are Black. Right? None of them are Black. It's never like, because he knows. He was like, I was getting profiled on the BART train last week, so I know it's still here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we know. I mean, we live it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a reaction. And then you see people out in the streets. You see masses of people in so many different cities, including Portland, Oregon. Now, when I saw the flow of people in Portland, Oregon,
that was
unexpected. When self-accuses self, then that's the judgment. When you have that many people going out saying that, hey, something is wrong in this society,
right,
and we need to fix it. What I'm concerned about is that we do the marches, we do the murals that have been painted, beautiful murals.
Right.
You paint Black Lives Matters on everything. You take down Confederate statues. You rename streets. You do all of this. But at the end of the day, where's the legislation?
Where's the policy change?
Where's the policy change?
Right.
Because otherwise, in 3 months from now, we're going to be doing this thing over.
Yep. No, it's real.
When November hits, and that election goes down,
it's going to be crazy.
And let's say if Trump loses, it's going to be
wild, man.
It's going to be kind of wild.
It's going to be wild. You know, and so what I'm wondering is, you know, if you had advice for people who run some of the more mainstream chess organizations, if you had advice for people who maybe run chess clubs that aren't as inclusive, because one of the things that, you know, that I keep trying to explain to people when you're dealing with hip hop and chess in the hood is that kids in the hood do not play chess to win tournaments. They do not necessarily know or care who Magnus Carlsen is. They don't necessarily know or care about Hikaru Nakamura and you know what I mean, and other amazing players. They're just trying to survive. They're just trying to not die in Chicago this weekend, because last weekend a whole bunch of people got shot. So they're just like, yo, I need to not get tricked. I need to understand consequences of my actions. I need to calculate risk, right? I need to protect myself. I have limited resources, and how do I, you know, format my limited resources in a formidable way? And so hip hop and chess has a totally different kind of thing. Now, when I was teaching some of the curators at the World Chess Hall of Fame for Living Like Kings, right? Shannon, who was one of the women there, said that, you know, the fastest growing demographic of chess players was African Americans, right? When that exhibit ran, right, in 2014. And that was ran because amazingly, Jennifer Shahadi connected me to Susan Barrett, who was the director of the World Chess Hall of Fame at the time, which is right across the street from the St. Louis Chess Club. And we did a record-breaking exhibit right there that had more people on its opening day than came out for Bobby Fischer when his exhibit ran. And it was beautiful. It was heartfelt. I'm grateful to RZA. I'm grateful to Shannon and Susan and everybody else who played a part in that, right? But what always seems to happen is that at the end of the day, I feel like in the mainstream chess community, there's like a default undermining of the black chess world, and it's quiet, but the vibe feels like it's not good enough, it's not real enough, it's not cool enough. And I'm just like, man, all of the rest of the chess in the world is what keeps it going. I respect all the top players. I respect, all the grandmasters. I don't have any remote undermining for anything they've ever done, anything they might do. But chess around the world is not driven by that 1%. It's driven by everybody else. It's driven by the grandma who beat her grandson. It's driven by the daughter who just finally beat her dad after 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what keeps chess going in Italy and in Spain, in Australia, in China. That's what drives it. And so what advice do you have for white organizations, or we don't even say white. I'm going to say that almost every chess organization that exists is by default white, because it's a competitive thing, and African Americans and Latinos don't always necessarily play in that space. So how can they be more inviting? What advice do you have for them?
Well, it's interesting, all these things that you're mentioning. I have all of these things going through my head. And I remember your exhibit because I went and I saw the exhibit and I did a story on it. And I've been to St. Louis many times. I have people across the bridge in East St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And
shout out to STL. I love St. Louis so much.
Yeah, it's a good place. And of course, they made an effort to go into the community as an outreach. Mm-hmm. But I'm on the board of directors for the Florida Chess Association, and I was a delegate last August when we were in Orlando for the meetings. And I understand, and I went on the floor and I asked a question about demographics of the USCF. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I asked if they kept data on ethnicity, and they don't keep that data. Mm-hmm. So you don't know the numbers. You don't know how many blacks, Hispanics, Asians,
how many Indians, Chinese, you don't have.
You don't know. You don't know the numbers, because for me, in order for you to successfully market and target, you have to know the numbers. Right. You have to know what you're not doing, who you're not reaching, and the places that you can possibly target. Now, we know about New York. We know that a lot of the black talent comes out of New York.
For sure.
Comes out of places that, the major metro areas, the Chicagos and the LAs and Atlanta, all of those areas have this activity. Most of it, I would find, is going to be in the informal type of chess. And, a lot of us, we like to play 5-minute chess. We like to play blitz. Because let's be honest, it's quick. And a lot of us don't have the time because we're out trying to survive, right? Right. You can't spend hours and hours and hours and hours studying chess when the return on your time is not going to be as great. So a lot of us stick to the 5-minute, the 3-minute chess, the bullet chess, or whatever. Right. A lot of guys play for money, and you go in New York, they set up tables and they play for money all the time. Word. But I think one of the problems would be that, first, we don't have the records. We don't have the data or the demographics in order to know how to target our community. The other thing is that we don't have the boots on the ground. We have a lot of people doing things like, Orrin Hudson, who is out of Atlanta.
Shout out to Orrin.
Doing fantastic work, and I've covered him over the years. Mm-hmm. And so his thing is, just as you mentioned, his thing is for life skills, make better decisions, and all the things that chess is known for. Right. Being patient, being disciplined. It's not necessarily to become masters.
Exactly.
And so what he does is he builds up those social skills and those skills that these young men and women need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, that's what he's striving to do.
Yeah.
So you have that type of organization, and then you have the organizations that say, okay, we're going to try to make you into a master level player,
Mm-hmm.
or possibly a grandmaster to reach that level. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of organizations that serve as kind of a
Like feeders, feeder
right.
schools. Right.
I was going to say incubation, kind
right.
of an incubation.
That's where I always thought HHCF was going to be. That was always my intention, right? Was
Mm-hmm.
to attract kids to chess, find out who really wants it, and be like,
Right.
oh, you really wanna get better? Play like Caruana. Check out
Exactly.
Fabiano's game. Oh, you really like chess and you're black? Here goes Maurice Ashley. You know what I'm saying?
So that's the thing. You have the levels here. You have the different levels. You've got the community outreach, which is we want you to play chess to be more disciplined. It'll help you with your studies. It'll help you with your math skills.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one level. And then you got the other level that, okay, we want you to become a
straight
master.
competitive. Right. This is competitive and we playing for keeps over here.
But there's kind of a disconnect, because what you find in a lot of organizations is that they want to get children engaged in chess, but it takes a lot of resources. When we talk about creating talent, creating masters, creating grandmasters, that takes a lot of resources. And it also takes, when I say resources, I'm not just talking about money, but that's one thing, but it also takes coaching, and it takes the right type of coach, because we might have a different learning style. You might have one teacher that teaches a certain way, but that's not conducive to the way this particular student will learn. What I find is lacking in our community is that we don't have mentorship. We don't.
And that's something that I've also tried to provide and, bring other people on to help do that. I think that that's crucial.
We don't have the mentorship in chess. And what I've tried to do with the chess drum is I've tried to give these stories to our youth so they can read about a Stephen Muhammad, they can read about a Maurice Ashley, they can read about a Emory Tate, and some lesser known masters. They can read about them as well, and inspire them. And some
shout out to Simatoe.
Yeah, definitely. I started covering him when he was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
But we don't have the kind of the mentorship, and we don't have the sense of history, which I think on our end in the Black community, that's lacking. That's something we need to do. As far as other organizations, I think that there just needs to be more of accessibility. I think it's got to be more accessibility. And I think the thing with online chess is online chess makes it more accessible, because you don't necessarily have to go to a chess
wander
club.
into a club and you're nervous or feeling like an outsider. Right.
So I think this is going to help as far as that's concerned. Now, people ask me all the time, Maurice Ashley became a grandmaster in 1999, and we haven't had one since. Talking about African American.
Right,
we have
for
other
sure.
Black grandmasters around the world,
right?
But he's the only one that was produced here. We have a young brother, Casa Corley, who is gunning for the title. He has 2 grandmaster norms. He only needs 1 more.
So explain that to someone who doesn't know what that means. Like, what does that mean? What is a norm, and why is it important?
So you need 3 what are called norms, which means that is a grandmaster level performance that you achieve in one tournament, which means that you have to play at grandmaster level.
Right.
So if you do that 3 times, 3 different tournaments, and of course you're playing grandmaster level competition, then you would get what are called the requisite norms, the 3 norms. But you also need to reach a 2,500 level
general
rating.
level. Right.
You need to reach by the World Chess Federation, you need to reach 2,500. And so if you get the 3 norms and the 2,500 rating, then you would become a grandmaster. Casa Corley has 2.
Okay, so he needs 1 more to pull it off.
He needs 1 more, and then he needs about 50 rating points, maybe
a little jump. Right.
Yeah, he needs a little jump. So he's right there. And we have a couple others.
And where's he from?
He's originally from New York.
Okay.
He's based out of New York, and he has grandparents from Denmark.
Oh wow,
So
crazy.
he has dual citizenship. I think his father is half Danish, half Ghanaian.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
so he could even get the Ghanaian citizenship if he wanted. And he told me
Wow.
I could have
Okay.
3 citizenships.
That's tight.
But
That's tight.
he's actually playing under the Danish flag now.
Okay.
Because it gives him more opportunities. But I think one of the issues with us is that we have a lot of hardworking people. You mentioned the HHCF.
Right.
We've mentioned Orrin Hudson. You've got a lot of organizers. You've got people like Frank Johnson, who's doing his thing on this chess streaming. You have a lot of streamers.
Right.
We got people doing things, but there isn't the collective community.
Right. Everybody's kind of doing it solo, right?
Like everybody's
that's a good point. And I think to your point, that's a big deal, right? So if you are any kind of minority player in chess, right, you should be looking to network with other people. I think on the flip side, one of the things that's lacking in the mainstream chess world is they do not acknowledge at all any Black contributions to chess or minority contributions to chess, unless it just happens to be Black History Month, and then you get that I mean, you know, we're near the same age. You remember when you were in school, like MLK had like a small paragraph, right? So every February, somebody would be like, and this Black guy played chess next, and they just keep going, right? And it's not as if African and Arab chess players didn't bring the game into Europe. These Muslims, they don't talk about that, right? They don't talk about different Black players outside of February. And just be like, hey, did you know who this player is? Look at this game from Emery Tate. Hey, check out, you know, before he was a grandmaster, let's look at this game from Maurice Ashley. You know, there's no, check out this. This is a new rap record from so-and-so. Like, they don't let you in to any of that stuff in a consistent, meaningful manner, right? And so it just smacks of like, it just makes me feel like mainstream chess outlets aren't even trying. It makes me feel that they're not sincere. And it's like, if you don't want to acknowledge me, just say that then. But don't pretend like it's cool. Don't pretend like the door is open publicly, but privately keep it closed. Because that's not fair.
It's interesting because since I've been doing the chess drum, or before I started doing the chess drum, I couldn't find hardly any information in mainstream chess media on Black chess players. Every now and then there might have been a story about someone in chess life, but there was really nowhere to turn. So I had to really dig and find this information on my own. Right. And I've been doing this for a long time, just for the reasons you've stated. I've tried to bring people together to see, okay, what is the HHC
common histories doing? And
what is B-Someone? What is Orrin Hudson doing? What are they doing in Jamaica?
Orrin Hudson was at one of the first HHCF events. Actually, he came out to the Bay. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen him in some years, but I got to salute that man. He does a lot of good work. You know what I mean?
He does. He does. And the thing is, you mentioned collaboration. Now, we've got people, as I said, we've got people who are organizers. We got people who are players. We got people who are journalists. We got people who do a lot of different things. But there isn't the consistency. Right. And for even we have what's called the National Blitz League that's was founded by some brothers in Chicago, and they're doing a fantastic job in terms of promoting chess on that platform. It's basically an online platform. And we have a lot of energy for the things that we're doing, but I don't see us reaching to the youth to continue kind of this tradition, because, you know, if let's say that I decide tomorrow that I don't want to do the chess drum anymore, then okay, well, what happens? Right. You know, who's going to write? Who's going to
carry that? Right. Who's going to carry that?
If you decide that, okay, I'm not doing the HHCF. Right. Then what's going to happen? If Maurice decides I don't want to do broadcasting, I'm done. And you know, we're blowing out our birthday candles every year. So we got to start grooming people.
Deese is old. You heard me? Deese is old. Help me out, youngsters. I need you to carry the baton for the OG.
Yeah, you know we got to start grooming, and there is just not that sense of community that we have to kind of bring people along. And I'm, frankly, trying to figure out ways because I realized that I've been doing this 20 years.
Right.
But, things change in terms of how we consume media, because there was a time where people went to blogs all the time. And
that's true. And they read. Right. And so now there's a lot less reading.
Now they're not reading. They're looking at videos.
Right.
So that's how people are getting their information.
Hence Bishop Chronicles, baby, and why you're
Bishop Chronicles.
Right.
Yeah. And so I got some stuff, that I'm going to do called the Drum Beat. I've done some segments in the past.
Yes. Keep doing them.
Drum beat segments and promoting others who are doing things. But I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to make ourselves more visible as well. And I have to continue to do what I'm doing.
Right. We all have to kind of try to push our levels individually while we try to gather collectively.
The other thing is that you alluded to is that, and we talked before we went on, is you said, well, I don't think the chess drum gets its due in terms of the contributions. And we may not do that enough to each other. Like you do an interview, somebody does an interview, they should mention some of these other organizations. So then they can go out and say, I'm going to check out HHCF. I'm going to check out the Hip Hop Chess Federation that you mentioned in the interview, or I'm going to check out Be Someone, or I'm going to check out some of these. We don't do that enough. And sometimes
I agree.
I'll see somebody do an interview, and then there will be a time when they can throw something in there,
and they don't.
A shout out, and it doesn't happen. And I'm like, that was a perfect moment to to push the narrative that is not just you. There are a lot of other people, and that we can also pull into this conversation and enrich it. From so many different perspectives.
And on that note, I would just like to acknowledge Mazi Mutafa over at Bum Rush the Boards out in DC.
Exactly.
Because he's a fantastic friend from way back, but like he's done a lot of events around hip hop and chess, from way back. And I also want to shout out the Newark Chess Club in New Jersey, because recently they started doing memes that had rap lyrics and chess. And they said, they were inspired by an interview or a list of rap lyric songs that I did for Rap Genius. You know what I mean? And they were like, because of that, we're doing these memes. And they just shouted me out. And I love that, because I don't know any of them cats, right? And now they're shouting me out. Now I'm shouting them out. And that's what I love doing. You know what I mean? I really love
I get that. I get that sometimes, because I'll get, I'll see tweets and I'll see people giving or referring to articles that sometimes I've even forgotten about. It's like I don't even remember that article. Right? It's like, it's still getting traction, which is good. Beautiful. But we've gotta do more of that with each other. We've gotta
and shout out to the Howard Chess Club.
Right.
You know what I mean? My boy Sultan, he's like a youngster, been reaching out to me, loves HHCF, you know what I mean? And so he's been doing a lot of positive stuff around chess too. So I want to. But
I think we have to start doing more of that, because if we don't have a collective community,
if we don't show that we're here as a group,
exactly. And so that I think that points to what you were saying before. Because if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. Other people don't see the urgency in shouting you out.
Or even just the beauty of it, right? They don't, the beauty of it. One thing I'm going to say before I go, and then I got to ask you one more question, is this. Oh, man, I lost my point. I start talking with you and my brain starts swimming. I'd be like, what about this? Don't forget to ask him. What about that? Don't forget. Here's what I was going to say. One of the best things about the Living Like Kings exhibit was the film. Remember, there was a film. It had two, right? You were going to a room, and on a wall here and a wall here, right? And it was narrated by the following people: me, RZA, you, Rocker from Dilated. Who's the brother that the movie was made about? The Move Like a King. What was that? You know what I'm talking about. They had Cuba Gooding Jr. in it. What was that movie? The chess movie.
It was a life. Life of a King.
Right.
Life of a King.
That real guy, I'm blanking on his name right now, tragically. His audio was on there. And it was in this film that was made by me and a guy named Kaplan, who was from St. Louis, and he put that film together. I always said you should be streaming that for free because people don't know to come to St. Louis, right? The idea was, oh, we'll have this film here. You have to be exclusive to come see it. And I was like, no, I'm a tech guy from the Bay. So I'm like, no, give the film away as the invite to come to the exhibit. And you know what? They didn't listen to me. It was still a successful thing, but I think it would have been much more successful had they given a free streaming online access. I think in these kinds of times, it might be wise to stream that video now.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they could put that video on their site right now, right? In perpetual viewing, and you could just go on and check it out for free. That would help a lot.
And
you know
people
what I mean?
still know who Cuba Gooding is. He's not old, so old that they'll say, okay, I don't know who that is.
Right.
But it was Eugene Brown was the name of the brother.
My dude, I haven't talked to him in years. He's doing well, and I think he actually moved back up on the East Coast because I think you're right.
He moved down south, and then
I think you're right. Yeah,
to take care of some things, and then he moved back.
I think the Big Chair Chess Club, is that the
Big Chair Chess Club?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Like
I would love it though.
I
would love it if that film would be released by the World Chess Hall of Fame. They should redrop that as it was. You know what I mean? And you know, I just think that there don't have to be huge moves to make chess more accessible. You know what I mean? To Blacks and other minorities. It's little things, but I think that there needs to be a higher level of sincerity inside these organizations and a sustained commitment. I think that's what I'm most frustrated with. One-off kind of like appeasing actions, right? And not enough sustained, consistent. We are acknowledging Islamic influence in chess. We are acknowledging this young Latina from South Central who's, you know what I mean? Who just won her first tournament. We're not seeing enough of that, and I would like to see more of that.
It's like the MLK tournaments that they have every
year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you have this tournament. People started holding these MLK tournaments, which is good.
Right.
But it's kind of like one of those things. Okay, it's a one-shot deal, and there's no and again, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
Right.
But we don't have any sustained activities of outreach, to these communities.
Yeah, I think that if you're in a mainstream chess organization or news agency, the question you need to ask yourself is, what more could we do today? Just ask that. Don't talk about what you did. I don't want to hear about past tournaments. What could you do today? What more could you do today? Those are the questions. Before I go, I want to talk about hip hop specifically as it relates to artwork, right? So there's a rapper named Ka. I don't know if you know his album, but he had an album called The Knight's Gambit. And he had like a street chess board with like a portion of a knight. Then you have like these two rappers, MF Doom and MF Grimm. They're playing chess on an album cover. There's also Liquid Swords, obviously, right? Like, what are some of your favorite chess related rap covers? Because I think that's part of the art that we miss when we have this discussion. Everybody thinks it's about lyrics. It's also about chess art. It's about videos. Do you have any particular rap albums, covers that you recall, or even video moments that you recall that are pretty dope to you?
Well, I told you the one that I think it says a lot when you talk about the Wu Tang. I think that was the one on the 36 Chambers.
Right. The Mysteries of Chess Boxing video.
Mysteries of Chess Boxing, which I think is interesting because that I mean, you had a variety of rappers on there, but that showed a lot of different levels of chess. Yeah. It showed the social, political, it showed the metaphysical, it showed the sporting, It showed warfare. There was all this.
Right, like all of the visual. You're right. That's a good point.
Everything was in that video.
Yeah.
And then it was actually choreographed on a chessboard. And then it had the figures there.
Had the logo. It was crazy, man.
Everything, and then it had the scenery, and it was I think if you wanted to, and that video is all over all over the chess drum, because
right.
I think when people watch the video, they can kind of understand what's going on. You don't really have to know how to play chess,
right,
to know that it's
deep enough, right?
A battle. You know, these guys are talking about battling.
Yeah, mental warfare, physical warfare. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And that's what chess is. But chess is, you know, people say, oh, well, you know, chess is not physical, but it is physical.
Ooh, it's very physical.
But it's metaphysical.
Ooh.
Because you're actually moving things in your head when you're studying chess. And I've had this experience playing in tournaments. You're studying so hard that you can actually feel your brain cells firing off.
Oh man, it's going.
You can see the pieces moving. You can actually see them physically moving.
I don't know if you checked it out, but there's one of our most recent episodes. I interviewed a guy named Dr. Elliot Gann, and we talked about hip hop and the human brain. And he talked about the cognitive function, what's happening in the brain when it's doing chess, when it's rapping, when it's, you know, it's unbelievable, the cognitive pistons that are jumping off, you know, during that time.
Yeah, I've actually, that experience is amazing, because when you get into the zone in chess, you're actually trying to delve into the future. We're using parts of our brain that we don't normally use. We're going into the deep recesses of the mind, and we're actually, it's a self-analysis too. You're analyzing yourself, because when you play chess, after the game, you can say, oh man, I was a little impatient. I was impulsive. Yeah. I didn't use my time good enough. I'm not paying attention. All these things are self-assessment. Yeah. You know, because what comes out when you play a chess game, what comes out of you, you could actually see, unlike if it's inside of your head or you can't see it. Right. You know, it's just these thoughts going around your mind. Random, but when you fragments. Play chess, they're coming out of your mind onto a board, and you can actually see, I made that mistake. I was impatient. I got to be more impatient. Chess causes you to self-analyze, give you a self-analysis of what's inside of you. And then you can go and correct things. You can say, okay, I need to do something about my patience. Okay, maybe I'll take up yoga. Maybe I'll do meditation. Maybe I'll do things. And then next time when I go into a chess game, I'll be better. Or I can, my time, I can manage my time a little better. Or I can, maybe I need to eat better. Yeah. Maybe I'm eating crap, and I need, before I play a game, and maybe I need to eat more nutrient dense foods. Yeah. Before I play, because
that's deep, man.
That affects everything.
It does. And so, man, I just want to thank you for being a guest on Bishop Chronicles. I appreciate you. Please tell people how they can reach out to you on Instagram and like online and whatnot.
So Instagram, I'm Chess Drummer. And my site is thechessdrum.net. I'm also on Facebook, The Chess Drum, and I'm on Twitter. So you can reach me at all of those places. And I'm working on another book, actually.
What? All right.
Serious.
All right.
It's a major project, but then you'll know.
I can't wait. Well, then you'll have to come back, man. You'll have to come back. But, you know, I just want to reiterate, man, how grateful I am to you on a personal level, but in general, like as a scholar, as a champion of chess culture, period, specifically as a champion of intercultural, interfaith histories and connectivities in chess, because it means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to so many people that read your site, read your book, and so many more that I hope will after this interview, man. So I just want to thank you for your contributions and your time today.
I appreciate you.
Cool, man. All right. Bishop Chronicles, you know what it is. Go to the Chess Drum, follow him on IG, and go play chess with one of your homies right now. And if you don't know chess, ask somebody who does and have them teach you today.